Angelicus and its
Hello and welcome to episode 99. We're almost at 100. Episode 99. Today we're going to be talking about Zhi Zi, Gardenia Fructus, or Gardenia Fruit. So let's get into it. Today we're going to be looking at another single Chinese herb, Zhi Zi, Gardenia Fructus or Gardenia Fruit. This herb is in the Chinese medical subcategory of drain fire under the category of clear heat herbs. It is an important herb for draining heat, cooling blood, and resolving dampness. As usual, we will explore all the intricacies of this herb, as well as an explanation of its category. And as always, we will look at something a little different. We will start the difficult conversation about an economic downturn and how acupuncturists and other integrative practitioners can deal with it. Stay tuned for another interesting, and I would dare say important episode. Before we get into that, I wanted to tell you about our amazing deal. We are starting an amazing special for our courses. If you use them for continuing education, professional development, or just for your own edification, we are offering 50 hours of courses for an unbelievable price. Normally, this would cost $750. However, with the special code 50 CEUs, that's 50 CEUS, this is going to be only $325 or only $650 per hour. Plus, you can get a free signed copy of one of my books, just pay for shipping and handling. That is a free copy of Integrative Pharmacology, combining modern pharmacology with integrative medicine, or Playing the Game, a step-by-step approach to accepting insurance as an acupuncturist. Free. All you do is pay for shipping and handling. What an amazing deal. Never done a deal this good. Just go to the webpage, www.integrativemedicinecouncil.org/CEUS1. That's CEUS1. So that's integrative, www.integrativemedicinecouncil.org/CEUS1 for this amazing deal. Okay, so as I'm writing this, President Trump has just backed down on his tariffs, while also raising the tariffs on goods coming from China, which of course is a huge blow to us because most of our stuff in our practice are going to probably be from China or somewhere near China. Whatever you think about Trump and his economic movements, it is widely believed by experts the damage is done. Whether or not tariffs come back, Trump paused them for 90 days, or not, turbulence alone can severely impact the economy. A recent Forbes article says the following about the chances of a recession in 2025. The median probability estimate among surveyed economists now stands at 65%. That's well over a majority of them. The chances of a recession is well above 65%, the majority. So it now stands at 65%. Sorry, I messed that up. It now stands at 65%, notably higher than the 40% probability typically cited before previous recessions, suggesting greater consensus around deteriorating conditions than during comparable historical periods. Wow. I read that and I go, shoot, we're going to have a freaking recession. So unfortunately, hopefully we can avoid it. But at this point, it's a more likely that we're going to have it than we're not, at least according to economists. The last time we had a high probability of recession in 2007 and 8, I wrote an article published in Acupuncture Today called Rough Seas, How to Weather the Coming Economic Downturn. It seems like a very good time to look at that article again. While some of the sources are older, they're still relevant. And even if you're not in the United States, a lot of what it says is still very relevant, as those predictions for a recession are considered to be global predictions, not just the US. However, if you are in other countries, some of the advice may not be specifically relevant, but the concepts are still very important. So I don't think it's a waste of time. It looks like the United States this is from that article. It looks like the United States may start an economic downturn. Whichever way the economy goes, most commentators on the economy are predicting is slowing. How can Oriental medical practitioners weather this coming storm? This article will examine our strengths and weaknesses, as well as some strategies for protecting ourselves. First, the good news. Usually healthcare holds up pretty well in an economic downturn. Since we are part of the healthcare system, we should do okay. Maybe. We can't be complacent, and we may need to change some of our business strategies to accommodate the changing economy. And we need to examine our weaknesses in order to do this. Many of these quote unquote weaknesses may be controversial. If you disagree, great. We as a profession need to think about some of these issues and for individuals to decide how they will deal with them. Here are some of our negatives and some strategies for dealing with them. We may be deliverers of healthcare, but we are not fully integrated into the healthcare system. This may mean we are not as shielded as other healthcare professionals from the downturn. Since we are primarily providers on an out-of-pocket basis, patients pay for their services. In a downturn, some patients may reassess their finances and conclude they cannot afford our services. Now, if we're treating someone for pain and succeeding, most patients will continue to pay out of pocket. People will pay anything to avoid pain. If we're treating something more intangible and the results may take a while to manifest, it may be a tough sell. Also, services that are elective may take a hit. These include facial rejuvenation and reproductive medicine, still some of our current hottest trends in our profession. I wrote that first back in 2008-07. So this is, still I think those are hot areas for our profession. So there's one word that is the antidote for most issues in an economic correction: diversity. Diversify your abilities for patients to pay. If you don't accept credit cards, I still know people who don't, or cash apps, start looking into it. Cash apps is the 2025 version of it. So if you're not on Venmo or any of those, PayPal, which isn't used very much anymore for that kind of thing, Zelle is still used. Look into getting those apps. Diversify your patient mix. And by the way, I should say with Zelle, they just actually shut down their app last week. So, but you can still use it. It's still usable. So look into it. Diversify your patient mix. If you have 100% out-of-pocket patients, this is the time to start adding workers' comp and insurance to your patient mix. This last point is very controversial, but it is exactly the time to consider accepting insurance. Patients are far more likely to continue seeing you if most of it is paid for by insurance. And which would you rather have, $40 or $50 for a treatment as paid by insurance, or nothing as the patient decides she can't afford it anymore? Think about taking insurance as insurance that you will continue to have an income stream from your patients, even if your income is reduced. In biomedical healthcare finance, the patient mix is extremely important as it allows an entity to weather any major regulatory or economic changes. In California, many acupuncturists had nearly 100% of their patients in the workers' comp system because it was so lucrative. I knew people back in the day that would easily, every patient visit would get over $200 a patient visit, and they were seeing 4 patients an hour. However, some lost their practices when it was basically eliminated. When Governor Schwarzenegger came in, he basically stopped it. It is now, again, a potentially valuable revenue stream, but nowhere near as lucrative as it was in the early 2000s. Diversity also means not having most of your patients in an elective service. It is possible many of today's very lucrative facial rejuvenation and reproductive medicine clinics may lose a large portion of their business. This is not to say that the skills and studies to create such a practice are not worthy of respect, just that having an entire practice in one elective or even non-elective specialty may carry some economic risk. Now, before the full brunt of the downturn, may be the time to brush up on other forms of treatment and start marketing them. Of course, having a large sum of money in investments or the bank would certainly provide a cushion and some breathing room in any economic chaos. But many of us don't have that. An alternative is to open a line of credit, either from your business or get a home equity line of credit. Lines of credit are a cash flow management tool. If money becomes tight, you will still have some ability to maintain your practice and retool it. The issue with lines of credit is that you can usually only get them when you don't need them. So get it now before the economic downturn. If you don't need it, don't tap it. No cost. It's great. It's just a backup system. I'm not suggesting using it. I am suggesting having it. I suggest don't use it, but at least you have it in case of emergency. But if you do need it, you will be very grateful you had the foresight to open it when things were going relatively well. An expensive but still viable alternative is to have an extra credit card around that has an unused, relatively high open credit limit. We're just looking for backup plans here. Hope we don't have to use them. If you are successful enough to have investments, talk to your financial advisor. Preparing for an economic downturn requires putting money in different investment vehicles. Investments popular in a defensive position include putting more money into bonds, especially bond funds. Though I will say bonds are getting hit right now. So I, again, talk to an advisor on this. What may be traditional does not necessarily mean it's good today. So while these may be low interest instruments, they can offer a steady and relatively safe investment. And with falling interest rates, bonds appreciate. I don't know if interest rates are going to fall or not. You know, they're fairly high right now, but I don't know if there's enough forces to make them go lower. In fact, we're worried about a stagflation scenario where stagnation happens with bond rate, the interest rates may be high, and we have inflation at the same time. The economy isn't growing and we have inflation. Not a good combination. The problem right now is this traditional refuge from economic chaos is quite turbulent. It may not be the place to park investments. In the stock market, funds usually flow to large, stable companies, especially those in the food staples, for example, bread, eggs, and milk, healthcare, and consumer goods, such as soap, toothpaste, toilet paper, etc. markets. We're always going to need those things. We may go to a cheaper brand in an economic downturn, but we're still going to need toilet paper. Of course, for an aggressive investor, a downturn may be a great opportunity to purchase a good stock that has lost some footing. Though be careful with that. That's only if you really know what you're doing. There are really only two take-home messages for dealing with an economic downturn. The first is diversify, and I gave you several strategies today. Diversify. If you have other strategies, let me know, but diversity is good. The second is to take a good look at potential strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These last 4 points constitute a standard brainstorming exercise in business. Take a piece of paper and draw a vertical line and a horizontal line in the middle so that there are 4 boxes. Label each with one of these 4 headings: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Strengths and weaknesses are inherent to your practice, while opportunities and threats are external. Spend 5 or 10 minutes at least brainstorming and add what comes up in their appropriate area. So you could say, my strength is I have a very large patient base who loves me. You know, that would be a great strength. The weakness is that it's all cash pay. You know, that would be a weakness in this scenario. And then look at the external opportunities and threats. So, for example, you know, the economic downturn is a big threat right now, but there can be opportunities. Can you create other revenue streams? Can you start a podcast or something along those lines that might help your revenue? And believe me, a podcast does not help revenue at all, but it was just an example. Afterwards, use this as the basis of a plan to strengthen your business and deal with the possible rough seas ahead. In short, don't wait until the storm sets in to start fastening the hatches. And that's the rough seas ahead. Potentially. And again, this is, you might be going, oh, geez, it's normal. This happens. There's always, the economy is a cycle. It goes up, it goes down. There's just no way to avoid it. It's just, can we have more ups than downs? But, you know, again, it's sort of like gravity. What goes up has to come down, and it's fine. We just need to learn our strategies. I've been through this before. Within a year or two, everything was back to normal. I would say that for about a year or two, everyone I know got hit. I know I started my practice in the beginning of 2008, and I remember we were just getting to breaking even around August of that year. There were 3 of us in this practice, and in July of that year, we were practically break even. And in August, every last one of our patients canceled. We had 0 patients for an entire month, and that destroyed our practice. At that point, we were too young and new to survive it. So we went our separate ways. So yeah, but after that, everyone kind of said, yeah, it kind of bounced back. Everyone was good. Everyone was fine. We just took the hit at that point. Okay, let's talk about today's herbal herb. And I don't mean that, just as we're going back to the recipes, it shouldn't be depressing. It just is what it is. It's sort of yin and yang, it's, we just got to go with it and wait for the yin to turn back into yang and prepare for it, make the yin less yin and of course the yang less yang, just everything even, everything balanced. That's the idea here. Okay. So today's herb, Zhi Zi, or Gardenia fruit. It's from the family Rubiaceae. Its standard species is Gardenia jasminoides Ellis. Remember, Ellis stands for the botanist who classified it. Its medicinal part that we're talking about today is the fruit, though we're going to find out that other parts of Gardenia can be useful as well. In English, it means Gardenia fruit or Cape jasmine fruit. And other names for this include Dandan. That's DANH. I saw this from several sources, but I don't know which language it comes from. So Dandan, Baichan, these are mostly Chinese from now on, except for the Japanese and Korean, which we'll get to. Baichan, Dahongzhi, Shanzhi, Mudan or wood cinnabar, and in Japanese, Shishir or Shishi, and in Korean, Chija. Chija. Let's talk about that Rubiaceae family for a moment here. The Rubiaceae or madder family consists of 611 genera and over 13,150 species. That's a big family. They are herbs, shrubs, and trees, mostly in tropical areas. They have opposing leaves with stipules or in whorls, with unbroken leaf margins and leaf-like appendages at the base of the leaf stalks. The leaves usually are large and evergreen in tropical species, deciduous in temperate species, and needle-like or scale-like in desert species. The plants may bear a single flower or many small flowers clustered together. The fruits can be berries, drupes, capsules, or schizocarps, which are dry fruits that split into segments of a single seed. Coffee, quinine, ipecac, kratom, and gambier used in tannin all come from or are extracts from members of this family. Many are also common ornamentals. So there you go. That's that family. Going back to the fruit, remember we have three major texts. First is Bensky and his team, and they say the dosage is 6 to 9 grams. We have Chen and Chen, which say 3 to 10 grams is the normal dosage with a maximum of 20 grams. And our third text is from Brand and Wiseman, and they also say the dose is 3 to 10 grams. Category for this herb in Bensky, Bensky and his team put this herb in the herbs that drain fire subcategory under clear heat herbs. Chen Chen say it is in the heat clearing and fire purging herbs subcategory under the heat clearing herbs category. And Brandon Wiseman say it is in the heat clearing fire draining medicinal subcategory under the heat clearing medicinals category. Bensky says it is bitter and cold and enters the heart, lung, stomach, liver, and triple burner, while neither Chen and Chen nor Brandon Wiseman say it enters the liver. So they don't include the liver to it, but everything else is the same. History is pretty straightforward. Both Bensky and Chen and his team and Chen Chen say the original source for this herb is the Shendong Ben Sao Jing, or Divine Husbandman's Classic of the Materia Medica in the 2nd century CE. This is the oldest existing book for Chinese single herbs. So if a herb is listed in this, it is among the oldest that are in the Chinese Materia Medica. So this is an older herb. This is a commonly used herb. So let's talk about the category herbs that clear heat. According to Bensky et al., heat in traditional Chinese medicine refers not only to febrile disorders or problems attributable to the invasion of pathogenic heat, but also to any condition that presents with heat signs: dry throat, red face, red eyes, dry stools, dark and scanty urine, yellow tongue coating, rapid pulse, and a sensation of warmth in the 5 centers, which are the soles of the feet, palms of the hand, and the sternum. Heat can be found in either the exterior or the interior. Exterior heat presents with fever, chills, headache, thirst, moderate sweating, and a floating rapid pulse. Interior heat, sorry, I just spilled. Interior heat presents with fever without chills, dry mouth, thirst, irritability, scanty and dark urine, yellow tongue coating, constipation or diarrhea, and abdominal distension. The herbs described in this category are used for treating interior heat. In general, these herbs are cold in nature. So that was the category of herbs. Now let's talk about the subcategory, which is herbs that drain fire. Herbs that drain fire are among the coldest in the materia medica. They are used for treating high fever, irritability, thirst, and delirium associated with febrile disease. Of the 4-level CIF-FEN system of differentiation, these symptoms generally correspond to the Qi level, and in the 6th stage, Liao Jing system, to the Yang brightness stage. Included in this group are herbs used for treating eye problems due to wind heat, as well as heat in the liver, lungs, or stomach. So that's it. That's all there was on the different categories and subcategories. Let's talk about good quality Zhi Zi. So Bensky and his team say good quality consists of reddish yellow full fruits with thin pericarp. Our great textbook on herb quality and identification, Chinese Medicinal Identification, an Illustrated Approach by Zhao and Chen, says Zhi Zi is long, oval, or elliptical shape, 1.5 to 3.5 centimeters long, externally reddish yellow or brownish red. The inner surface is relatively light colored and lustrous. It has a thin and brittle exocarp with a faint odor and a slightly sour and bitter taste. Superior medicinal material has a thin exocarp and is full and reddish yellow in color. The inner surface of the exocarp has 2 to 3 bulging false desepiments. A desepiment is a partition or a septum. The apex has remnants of a persistent calyx. A calyx is the collective term for the sepals, which are the green leaf-like structures surrounding the base of a flower. The calyx protects the developing flower bud and its inner parts, including the petals, stamens, and pistils. Exterior has 6 wing-like longitudinal ridges with 1 obvious longitudinal vein between each ridge. Base is slightly pointed with remnants of a stem. Seeds are numerous and have a flat oval shape. They're bound in clusters, are deep red or reddish yellow in color, and the surface has small verrucous protuberances. Verrucous means wart-like protuberances. So that's good quality. Let's talk about its actions. According to Bensky and his team, Zhi Zi drains heat and eliminates irritability for heat patterns with fever, irritability, restlessness, stifling sensation in the chest, insomnia, or delirious speech. It also clears heat and resolves dampness for painful urinary dribbling due to damp heat in the lower burner, damp heat in constrained liver and gallbladder, middle burner with jaundice, and damp heat in the gallbladder and triple burner channels of the face, affecting the nose and eyes or causing sores in the mouth or facial region. It cools the blood and resolves toxicity for heat in the blood with such symptoms as nosebleed or blood in the vomit, stool, or urine. For this purpose, the herb is partially charred. and it reduces swelling and moves blood stasis due to trauma. For this purpose, apply topically as a powder mixed with egg white or vinegar. That topical is important. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Chen say it sedates fire and relieves irritability, drains damp heat downwards, clears heat, cools blood and stops bleeding, and reduces swelling and relieves pain. Brandon Wiseman say it drains fire and eliminates vexation, clears heat and disinhibits dampness, cools the blood and resolves toxin, and disperses swelling and relieves pain. So they all kind of agree on the they may have slightly different takes, but they all are basically in agreement about the actions of this herb. Chinese medicinal identification illustrated approach says, they're still talking about actions here, says it drains fire, eliminates vexation, clears heat and promotes urination, cools the blood and resolves toxin. And that sounds a little bit similar to Brandon Wiseman. There's a good reason for that. Eric Brand was the editor of this book, Chinese medicinal identification. So a lot of the actions, the medical actions kind of overlap a little bit. So that word vexation, I love that word, but that's why they both use it. And finally, the Shengnan Ben Sao Jing, the Divine Husbandman's Classic of the Materia Medica. Remember I said this is the oldest existing book on individual herbs. So this is like the first account of this herb. That says it mainly treats evil qi in the 5 internals, i.e. 5 viscera, heat qi in the stomach, red boils on the face and drinker's nose, white lie and red lie and sores. So I hadn't heard of white lie and red lie, but thankfully there was a footnote that explained those two. A footnote says the leaves lie. The footnote says lie is the traditional Chinese name for leprosy and is characterized by an insensitivity of the limbs, fever in the limb joints, weakness of the hands and feet, hoarse voice, blurred vision, and pricking pain in the focus. There are 2 species of lie, the white and the red. In the white species, there is whitening of the skin, while in the red, there is erythema or redness. So that's our white lie and red lie. There was another footnote in the Shengnan Ben Sao Jing, talking a little bit more about what it does, probably in a more modern terms. So Gardenia is a medicinal for the heart, liver, and stomach. It is able to penetrate the qi and blood, particularly the blood. Because it is bitter and cold, it drains heat from the heart and lungs to resolve fire depression of the triple burner. Therefore, conditions like reversal heat, heart pain are resolved. Even more remarkable is its ability to cure heart vexation and anguish, insomnia, and various categories of jaundice. It should be noted that nearly all empirically proven formulas for jaundice contain gardenia. Interesting. Preparations. There's lots of ways to prepare this. So Bensky and his team say when the fruit is collected, cleaned of any extraneous material, and dried, it is called unprepared gardenia or shangzhi. However, it is difficult to thoroughly dry gardenia fruit in the sun and retain the natural color internally, so a special method is used. The fruit is briefly scalded in boiling water. Alum may be added, 8 grams for each kilogram of herb, or the fruit is steamed for 30 minutes. Extraneous water is then shaken off, and then the fruit is dried for several days under full sun, then dried in a shady location with good air circulation to completely eliminate any internal moisture. A variety of names are used to emphasize certain desirable qualities in this herb. An example is the name small gardenia or Shaoshan Zhi, as the best quality fruit is considered to be small, complete, red inside and out, and full of kernels. Similarly, because the fruit produced in Jiangxi province is often considered best, prescriptions may call for Jiangshanzhi. So a preparation that we have, it's actually kind of 2 of them, gardenia kernels Shanzhi Ren and gardenia peels Shanzhi P. Gardenia fruit is opened with a knife to remove the red kernels. Although most practitioners nowadays do not distinguish between the kernel and the whole gardenia, Some still advocate differentiation between the two, as they feel that the peels and kernels are not wholly congruent in effect and channel tropism. For example, Essentials of the Materia Medica, Ben Sao Bei Yao, written in 1664, instructs internal heat, use the kernels. Exterior heat, use the skin. Mirror of Medicines, Yao Jian, written in 1598, agrees. Retaining the peel expels heat from the muscles and flesh. Removing the peel eradicates heat from the heart and the chest. And again, an extension of the Materia Medica, Ben Sao Yan Yi, written in 1116, Gardenia kernels are combined with Ray radix et rhizoma da Huang and Coptis rhizoma Huanglian for treating heat retained in the heart channel with darkish urine that is difficult to pass. Next preparation is dry fried gardenia or Chaoshan Zhi Zi. The fruit is fried over a moderate flame until the color changes to golden yellow. If fried over a hotter flame until slightly charred but still yellow, it is called scorched gardenia or Jiao Shanzhi. In ancient times, some physicians felt that unprepared Gardenia Fructus Zhi Zi was very cold, which could cause nausea and vomiting. Frying it could reduce this tendency. This allows the herb to enter the blood and cool pent-up blood level heat. If it is fried to reduce its tendency to cause vomiting, Zingiberis rhizomatis succus jiangzhi, this is ginger juice, is often used during the frying process, and the result is ginger gardenia or jiang shanzi. This is especially good for reducing rebellious stomach qi while clearing heated agitation. Another form is charred gardenia or shanzhi tan. The herb is crushed and then fried until it turns a brownish black ash. This is also called black gardenia or hei shanzhi. It enters the blood level, cools the blood, and stops bleeding. It is often used for heat from excess or fire toxin causing the blood to circulate erratically in conditions such as epistaxis, which is bleeding nose, hemoptysis or splitting up of blood, hematuria, blood in the urine, or abnormal vaginal bleeding. However, according to recent studies in herbal preparation, Gardenia Fructus Zhi Zi fried into ash in fact loses much of its effect in stopping bleeding, although the practice of prescribing charred Gardenia Fructus Zhi Zi is still quite common. The research indicates that the best method of preparation for promoting its hemostatic effect or blood stopping effect is to maintain the temperature of a large herb preparation wok at 210 degrees Celsius and cook for 10 minutes. This is something that can be done at home, even in an oven. So Chen discussed preparations as well. For oral administration, fresh Zhi Zi functions more effectively to clear heat and sedate fire. When prepared with ginger, it more strongly relieves nausea and vomiting. Dry fried Zhi Zi is warmer and is less likely to damage the spleen and stomach. Charred Zhi Zi has stronger action to stop bleeding. And under author's comments, Chen and Chen say charred Zhi Zi is most effective in stopping bleeding as compared to unprocessed Zhi Zi. However, if the cause of bleeding is excessive heat driving blood out from the vessels, unprepared Zhi Zi should still be used, as charred Zhi Zi has lost most of its function to clear heat when it is turned into ashes. Okay, so those are our preparations. Oh, no, we have another one Brandon Wiseman adds as well. They say the husk of the fruit is better at out-thrusting the exterior and eliminating heat from the muscles and skin, while the seeds are better at moving to the interior and clear internal heat. So that jives with what Bensky and his team said. When used raw, it penetrates the chi aspect and drains fire. When charred, it enters the blood aspect and staunches bleeding. So again, they're kind of all in agreement on the preparations. What are some Western uses? So the White Rabbit Institute of Healing, I like this White Rabbit Institute. They give a lot of really good, useful information, and they often will have Western uses right next to Chinese uses, and they have a pretty good handle on both. So I like it as a source, because sometimes it's hard with the Chinese herbs to find, how this is used in Western herbalism or herbalism outside of Chinese herbalism. So the White Rabbit Institute of Healing says its Western actions include laxative, anti-inflammatory, alterative, antibacterial, antifungal, febrifuge, lowering fever, hypertensive. I don't know if that means anti-hypertensive or it actually does increase blood pressure, either reduces or increases, I don't know. Refrigerant, so cooling, analgesic, antispasmodic, diuretic, it promotes urination, antiseptic, detoxicant, and aromatic. Its medicinal uses include treating irritability, restlessness, tight chest, insomnia, nosebleeds, hematemesis, which is vomiting of blood in the urine, jaundice, urinary difficulties, rheumatism, swollen injuries, sprains, cystitis or bladder infections, headaches, hepatitis, hypertension, and rectal bleeding. The PDR for herbal medicines, which is a big textbook on herbs, does not mention this herb. So it's not part of that. So I don't think it's a commonly used Western herb is my point in all of that. So there is a commentary on Dzerzhinsky et al. As usual, has an excellent commentary on this herb. Zhou Yan says that this is an herb of the heart, lungs, liver, and stomach, but that its therapeutic effect is more in the heart, liver, and stomach and less in the lungs. Other writers include the triple burner channel. It is bitter, cold, and downward directing in nature, but the downward precipitation is gradual. It is best at cooling fire and heat in the heart, lungs, stomach, liver, and triple burner, eliminating hot irritability in situations such as warm pathogen diseases with agitation and insomnia. Zhi Zi is also good for clearing damp heat and is used for jaundice and urinary difficulty, guiding damp heat out through the urine. Constraint is key here, as explained by Zhou Yan. It is bitter and cold and eliminates heat. The heat that it eliminates is a static, constrained heat, not a floating, dispersed heat, nor a hard, clumped heat. It is able to resolve constraint, but not attack hardness, nor is it able to calm the rebellious. For these reasons, it is not used for the yang brightness condition of abdominal fullness with dried stools, nor is it used for the coughing and rebellion of exterior heat in lung diseases. Zhu Danxi, very famous physician, observed that it drains triple burner fire, cools epigastric heat, treats sensations of heat and pain in the cardiac region, dissipates pent-up heat, and mobilizes clumped qi. After noting that it is an essential herb for the treatment of heat in the chest, he explained that it has a tremendous ability to drain fire downward and out through the urine, as by nature it winds its way downward. The noted contemporary physician Zhu Liangchun used the dried form of this herb as the primary ingredient in formulas for pancreatitis, as he considered it particularly useful for the key pathologies he saw in this problem: damp heat affecting the spleen and stomach, then transforming into fire. His view is that the herb drains fire in the three burners and is able to enter both the qi aspect, where it clears heat and drains fire, as well as the blood aspect, where it cools and moves the blood. For this purpose, he combined it with such herbs as Rei Radix et Rhizoma da Huang, Terracisi Herba Pugang Ying, Curcuma Radix Yujin, Petriniae Herba Bai Jiang Sao, and Persica Semen Dao Ren. When oral administration is not practicable, he recommends using a nasogastric tube or enema. Wow, this guy ain't fooling around. Chen and Chen, in their commentary, says, not only is Zhi Zi commonly used in clinical practice, its flower is also beautiful. According to ancient texts, the plant has the ability to clean the air and absorb toxins that may be harmful to the human body. They also say, according to Dr. Shen Yen Nan, Zhi Zi is particularly good at treating liver fire. So this is interesting. So this is one of those, if you're going to have an indoor plant, this is one to consider anyways. This sounds like a good indoor plant for us to have around because of its ability to clean the air and absorb toxins. Comparisons. Actually, this is interesting. Neither Bensky et al. Nor Chen include comparisons of this herb with others, which is interesting because this is a very common herb. Usually common herbs have common comparisons, but I think it's because this herb just does what it does so exemplary in such an exemplary way that you don't really need to compare it. It's when you need it sort of thing. Combinations, though. There are combinations. Bensky and his team combines this herb with 3 others. First is Mudampi or Mouton cortex. This is in the blood cooling category of herbs. While Zhi Zi clears fire from constraint at the qi level, it also has a certain blood cooling effect, as it is regarded as an herb that treats blood at the qi level. Mouton cortex, Mudampi, is bitter and slightly acrid and is regarded as an herb that treats qi at the blood level. Acridity disperses clumps, and its cold enables it to drain latent lurking heat at the blood level. Thus, this combination resolves qi level constraint, leading to heat as well as heat in the blood. Discussion of medicinal combinations elaborates. The liver favors dispersal and becomes contentious when confronted. Zhi Zi should be used to clear liver qi. When the qi is clear, the fire is also cleared. The liver is tonified by acridity. The acrid nature of Mouton cortex, Mudampi, accords with the liver's nature and awakens it, which actually tonifies it. When the liver is tonified, its qi expands and fire is also pacified. This combination is most appropriate for disorders due to liver constraint and heat, including flushing heat, night sweats, headache, red eyes, thirst, and menstrual irregularity. With Zingiberis rhizomatis succus jiang zhi, this is ginger juice. Zhi Zi is bitter and quite cooling, entering the stomach among other channels to scour heat and drain it downward through the urine. An ancient adage says that when there is stomach heat causing pain, Zhi Zi is essential. However, clinically, Zingiberis rhizomatis succus jiang zhi is used for this purpose to assist Zhi Zi because it is acrid and warm and ideal for settling the stomach and directing rebellion downward. This pair of herbs combines a bitter quality which directs downward with an acrid quality which opens up, harmonizing the stomach and stopping pain. The warmth of Zingiberis rhizomatis succus jiang zhi moderates the cold of Zhi Zi, thereby preventing injury to the digestion. The pair is most appropriate when epigastric pain is hot in nature. The preparation of Zhi Zi with Zingiberis rhizomatis succus jiang zhi, called ginger prepared gardenia, has the same underlying rationale as this herbal combination. We talked about that preparation earlier. And our final combination is with Forsythia fructus or Lian Chao. Seeking accuracy in the Materia Medica of the Ben Sao Chiu Gen, written in 1773, observes, Forsythia fructus Lian Chao is bitter and slightly cold, light in weight, and floating. Although the textbooks state that it drains constrained fire in the 6 stages, yet, as a result of its floating, light, clearing properties, it is first and foremost an important herb for draining the heart. The heart is the master of fire. Therefore, if the heart is cooled, all the other organs are cooled. Zhi Zi is bitter, cold, drains, and directs downward. It excels at draining fire and heat, cooling the blood, and resolving toxicity. It treats constrained fire throughout the 3 burners. The two herbs join forces to cool the heart, expel irritation, cool the blood, and resolve toxicity, and are especially effective in treating warm, hot pathogens entering the pericardium and leading to high fever, impaired consciousness, and restless irritability. They also treat heat remaining in the heart channel, leading to sores in the mouth or on the tongue, dark, scanty urine, and urinary discomfort. They have a weaker dispersing action than other combinations that resolve toxicity, but can still be used for swollen, toxic sores because of their strong ability to clear blood heat and resolve toxicity. Contents. According to Bensky et al., the contents of this herb include, this is my favorite tongue twister page of my podcast. Iridoid and flavonoid glycosides, including gardeniacide and jasminoidin, organic acids, and other constituents such as choline, D-mannitol, beta-sitosterol, and xanthophyll. Chen specifically lists, all they list was these things: gardeniacide, genipicide, geminoidin, genipin 1 beta D, gentiobioside, gentiobioside, chandraside, genipin, and genipisodic acid. So, I always like when you see sort of the Latin names used as a constituent, you kind of know that this is where they discovered it. So like gardeniacide is gardenia. So gardeniacide, I would assume, was discovered by observing gardenia, by looking at the constituents of gardenia. That's why I always want to include these in the contents. Okay. Let's talk about the science of this herb. So according to Chen, the pharmacological effects of Zhi Zi include being analgesic, sedative, antihypertensive, hepatoprotective, cholagogic, which means it helps with bile, central nervous system suppressant, gastrointestinal acid reducing, and antibiotic. These effects were all demonstrated in small animal studies, which means that these effects may not be appropriate for humans. They may not happen in humans, but we do have some evidence that it happens in animals, which is the first step of looking at it in humans. But they also discuss a few clinical studies, which is interesting. So all of these were topical. So one study of 407 patients. So that's a good sized study, using a paste of Zhi Zi water and rubbing alcohol helped with musculoskeletal sprains and strains. A mixture of Zhi Zi, Daoren, Serum persica, and honey Daoren is peach pit, and honey was applied topically on the chest of 50 patients to help coronary artery disorders. Okay, I don't know if you're going to get away with that in the West. An herbal paste was made by mixing 10 grams each of Zhi Zi and Da Huang, Radixet rhizome Ray, with paraffin oil and 75% rubbing alcohol, was used to treat 110 patients with various aches and pains. So, when I think of this herb, I think of it as clearing heat. I don't think of it as, I do some topical stuff. I do think of it as something to add into topicals, but when you say Zhi Zi to me, I'm like, oh, it's great for internal heat. I don't think of it as a topical herb. Not that I won't use it topically, like I said. So it's interesting to me that all the studies that were in Chen's were topical, because I think of this as much more effective as an internal herb than a topical herb. Let's see if I have it on the next slide. I don't. I did do a literature search looking for reviews using Zhi Zi and didn't find any. So while it's very commonly used in Chinese medicine, I just don't think it's a very commonly known herb outside of that realm, and probably doesn't have a lot. I didn't look at individuals, so there may be lots of studies, they just haven't undertaken a review, but I usually just use reviews, because if I talk about every study, I'm be talking about hundreds of studies, but reviews combine a bunch of studies and gives an overall view. So I tend to look, and there's stronger evidence. So I tend to look at reviews in these things, and there just wasn't a review when it came to Zhi Zi. So that's the science. I wouldn't say it's super strong, but this is definitely one of the herbs that have been used for a long time, and it has a very strong effect according to Chinese medicine. I think it's a very useful herb. Drug-herb interactions. A literature search did not find interactions between Zhi Zi and various cytochrome P450 isozymes or P-glycoprotein, which is another target. Both of those are targets for drug-herb interactions. A large epidemiological study showed increased adverse effects in patients taking Chaihu Zhi Zi, our herb today, Wu Wei Zi, Shu Shengdiwang, Mu Tong, and Che Qianzi with clozapine, quetiapine, and olanzapine. So we do need to be a little bit cautious when using this with those. Though, I want to look at this study because it's a large study, which is good, but it's using a lot of different herbs and a lot of different drugs. And I don't know if these were combinations or they're just like, okay, these are everybody and these are what everybody was taking and we're seeing these correlations. Maybe that's the case, but it just seems like there's a lot of variables in this particular study, even though it's a good large study. Finally, the American Herbal Products Association's Botanical Safety Handbook, which I really like actually, puts this herb in interaction class A, which is their safest class, and it means herbs for which no clinically relevant interactions are expected. So, and I think we see that with our literature search here. There's not a whole bunch of risks here for drug-herb interactions. Okay, so let's talk about some concerns. What are we worried about with this particular herb? Sabensky and his team note several concerns with Zhi Zi. Under the heading of cautions and contraindications, they say contraindicated in those with cold from deficiency of the spleen and stomach with reduced appetite and loose stools. Well, that makes sense. This is going to be cooling. If you're already cold, this is going to make things worse. So don't take it while you're cold, especially in the stomach and spleen, which are the digestive organs in Chinese medicine. Under the heading of traditional contraindications, they say one should be concerned due to its bitter, cold nature that it may damage the stomach qi and injure the blood. Therefore, it is contraindicated for deficiency and weakness of the spleen and stomach, as well as heat from blood deficiency. It is especially prohibited for those patients with pain in the abdominal and epigastric region, which is not due to fire. And this is from Harm and Benefit in the Materia Medica, or the Bensao Hai Li by Ong Huan, written in 1893, which, even though that's over 100 years old, is still relatively modern for Chinese medicine. And then finally, under the heading of toxicity, they say within the normal dosage range, no side effects are to be expected. There have been 2 reports of allergic skin reactions. So we always are concerned about allergic reactions. So that was Bensky and his team. Brown and Wiseman have a warning. Zhi Zi is contraindicated in spleen vacuity with sloppy stool and reduced food intake. And Chen say bitter and cold in nature, Zhi Zi should be used with caution in patients who have deficiency and cold of the spleen and stomach, characterized by loose stools and decreased intake of food. Use of this herb may be associated with possible drowsiness and sedation. Therefore, individuals who take this herb should exercise caution if driving or operate heavy machinery. Well, that's interesting. This is an herb this is our sedative herb, okay? So don't take it while operating heavy machinery. The American Herbal Products Association's Botanical Safety Handbook puts this herb in safety class 1, which is their safest class. Herbs that can be safely consumed when used appropriately. So, that safety class 1 doesn't say there aren't any cautions. It's just if used properly, there's no issues. And that was our herb today. So today we started with our discussion of how to deal with a potential economic downturn. Then we looked at another single Chinese herb, Zhi Zi, Gardenia Fructus, or Gardenia Fruit, or Cape Jasmine fruit, from the subcategory of drain fire under the category of clear heat herbs. This important herb for draining heat, cooling blood, and resolving dampness is one of the more important Chinese herbs. As usual, we explored all the intricacies of this herb as well as an explanation of its category. What a great exploration of a very useful and important herb. On our next episode will be our 100th episode. Am I doing anything special? No. It's going to be another episode, but it's going to be a good one, and I'm going to be really excited it's the 100th episode. We will be exploring another interesting herb of the world, maca root or Lepidium mayeni. And I will probably figure out how to pronounce that properly by the time I have to say it 50 times on our next episode. It is reported to be helpful for treating libido, fertility, and possibly menopause. We will be doing our deep dive into this herb and find out if there is any evidence for these effects. And as usual, we will be adding something a little different. It's going to be another fascinating exploration into the world of herbs. Please join us in 2 weeks. And I'd like to say thank you very much. If you like this podcast, please do us a huge favor. Subscribe to it in your favorite podcast app or give us 5 stars. We appreciate you even thinking about doing that for you. And thank you very much for that. Don't forget our amazing continuing education deal. I can't believe I'm giving a deal this good. www.integrativemedicineCouncil.org/CEUS1. So that great deal is at www.integrativemedicineCouncil.org/CEUS1. You can always get in touch with me at drgreg@spurbsherbs.com or at our website, www.spurbsherbs.com. And I'd like to say, here's our bibliography, our usual good bibliography. And I want to say thank you.
Spurbs Herbs.
The proceeding was presented by Dr. Greg Sperber. We would like to thank Janelle for all her support and everybody else who contributed to this program.
Janelle.
Timothy Dobbins.
Roger
Campbell.